There are quiet moments when you stop and realize that every breath you take is already a reflection of something greater than yourself. You may not always see it, but the rhythm of your heart, the rise and fall of your lungs, the thoughts that flicker like soft candles in your mind, all of them exist because God still wills it. Life itself is borrowed light, and we are merely mirrors asked to catch its glow. Yet how often do we forget that? How often do we walk through our days as if we own the light, as if we are meant to shine for ourselves? The truth is, we were never made to draw attention to our own reflection. We were made to reveal His. There's something profoundly humbling about realizing that the same God who paints sunsets and orchestrates galaxies has chosen to live in you, to let His beauty move through your words, your work, your way of being. But the world trains us differently. It tells us that to be seen is to succeed, that to matter is to be known. And somewhere along the way, the mirror turns inward, and we start admiring the glow instead of remembering its source. That's when the soul begins to dim. Because light disconnected from its origin doesn't stay radiant. It flickers, then fades. God never asked you to be impressive. He asked you to be faithful. The purpose of a Christian life isn't to outshine others. It's to let the love of Christ shine through you so clearly that even in your silence, someone can feel the warmth of heaven. Sometimes that happens in grand gestures, but most often it's hidden in the smallest acts. The patience you show when no one thanks you, the kindness you extend when no one sees, the forgiveness you offer when it costs you your pride. These are the quiet places where glory grows. When you begin to live like this, something within you shifts. You no longer measure your worth by applause or by the eyes that notice. You start to sense that holiness happens in unseen corners, in the way you think before you speak, in the way you pause before you judge, in the way you remember to whisper thank you for things you once overlooked. This is how reflection begins, not in perfection, but in surrender. You reflect Him best not when you're flawless, but when you're transparent, when the cracks of your life let His light leak through. There is a hidden beauty and imperfection that the Spirit loves to inhabit. God is not waiting for your strength. He is looking for your willingness. He knows how fragile the human heart can be, how easily pride hardens it. That's why He keeps calling you back to the gentle truth. His strength is made perfect in weakness. The mirror doesn't have to fix itself before it reflects light. It only has to face the source. Maybe that's what this season of your life is really about. Not doing more, not being better, but turning toward Him again. Letting His gaze shape your heart. Letting His Spirit clean what time has clouded. Every prayer you whisper, every moment you pause before reacting, every act of compassion that no one applauds, all of it becomes worship when it is done for His sake. You were made for this quiet kind of glory. And yes, the world may call it small. They may not understand why you choose gentleness over power, patience over pride, faithfulness over fame. But heaven knows. The Father sees what the world forgets to notice. And in His kingdom, what seems invisible is often the most radiant. So when you wake tomorrow, or even when night wraps around you now, remember that every ordinary hour is sacred. There is no task too simple to carry the presence of God. There is no moment too mundane to become holy ground. You don't have to chase purpose. You only have to carry presence. Let your laughter be prayer. Let your silence be worship. Let every breath you take become a quiet amen to His glory. Because when your heart rests in Him, the smallest act becomes eternal. When your eyes see through love, even tears can shimmer with light. This is how your life begins to reflect His, one surrendered moment at a time. Father, help me remember that I am not the source of light, but its reflection. Turn my heart toward You again until every word, every choice, and every breath carries Your beauty. Let my life shine quietly for Your glory, unseen by many, but known by You. Amen. If this prayer spoke peace to your soul, whisper Amen in the comments, and stay with us at 10 Men with God, a quiet home for hearts that seek Him. Let this moment not end here. Share this prayer with someone who may need a gentle reminder of His presence, and subscribe so your heart never misses the next whisper of faith. There comes a point when knowing about God is no longer enough. You find yourself standing between what you believe and how you live, between words you've prayed and the world that keeps testing whether you meant them. Faith, you realize, is not a feeling you visit on Sundays. It's a quiet rhythm that follows you into the noise of ordinary days. And transformation, true lasting transformation, begins not when life gets easier, but when your heart learns to yield in the middle of what stays hard. God does not shape us in the comfort of control. He shapes us in surrender. Every moment that challenges you, every place that stretches you, every season that humbles you, it is His workshop. He is not against you when He allows discomfort. He is forming Christ within you. The moments that break you are often the same moments that make you radiant. You don't need to perform holiness. You just need to stay open while He rewrites your heart. There will be days when you stumble, when prayer feels hollow, when your strength feels too thin to carry faith another mile. But that's exactly where grace begins to whisper. The Spirit does not wait for you to be strong. He comes when you collapse, teaching your soul to breathe again. Sometimes transformation is less about conquering and more about being still long enough for the potter's hands to finish what they started. When you look at your life and see pieces that no longer fit, relationships that fade, plans that crumble, doors that close, remember that God removes what hides His reflection. He prunes not to punish, but to prepare. You cannot mirror His glory if you're busy holding on to what was never meant to shine. So He lets certain things fall away, not because they were evil, but because they kept you distracted from what is eternal. Transformation often begins with subtraction before it turns into light. To live for God's glory is to trust Him with both the building and the breaking. It's realizing that holiness is not about being untouchable. It's about being transparent enough for His light to pass through. When your ego no longer fights for the front seat, humility begins to bloom. You start to see His hand not only in blessings, but in boundaries, not only in answered prayers, but in the silence that refines you. And in that silence, you hear something sacred, the still, steady heartbeat of a God who never stops believing in what He placed inside you. He doesn't rush your growth. He waits like a gardener tending tender roots beneath the soil, knowing that hidden change is still change. The Spirit works in whispers, not demands. He renews the mind slowly, one surrendered thought at a time, until your desires begin to align with His. You start wanting what He wants. You start seeing as He sees. And suddenly, what used to feel like loss begins to look like love. Transformation also asks you to forgive. The ones who hurt you, the moments that disappointed you, the parts of yourself you wish you could erase. Forgiveness is not denial. It is alignment. It is you saying, God, I trust you to redeem this too. When you release what has wounded you, you make space for glory to breathe again. Because bitterness clouds the mirror, but grace wipes it clean. And maybe that's the real miracle, not that God makes everything perfect, but that He makes everything purposeful. Even your pain becomes a vessel for His compassion. Even your weakness becomes an altar for His strength. Every scar you carry can become a testimony if you let His mercy trace light through the cracks. When your life starts to change like this, you stop asking, why me? And begin asking, what are you revealing in me? The focus shifts from surviving to surrendering, from striving to trusting. You begin to sense that transformation isn't something you achieve, it's something you allow. And the more you allow, the more your life starts to resemble his, gentle, patient, radiant in ways the world can't explain. So tonight, or whenever you listen, breathe this truth in. You are not unfinished because you are still growing. You are already reflecting him every time you choose love over pride, truth over comfort, and faith over fear. You don't have to wait until your life looks perfect to glorify him. You glorify him most when your heart remains open in the middle of imperfection, because that's where his glory feels at home. Father, shape me gently in the quiet spaces of surrender. Teach me to see your purpose in every breaking and your beauty in every delay. Let my life be the place where heaven's light finds. If this message stirred your heart, whisper Amen in the comments, and stay with us at 10 Minute with God, a quiet home for hearts that seek him. Share this prayer with someone who may need hope tonight, and subscribe so you never miss the next whisper of his truth. There's a sacred stillness that comes when your soul finally stops trying to prove and starts learning to belong. You realize that glorifying God was never about grand displays of devotion, but about the quiet alignment of your heart with his will. It's in the pauses between words, the restraint before reacting, the unseen acts of kindness that no one praises. To live for his glory is to live with your eyes fixed not on what you can build, but on who you're becoming through him. Maybe you've spent years trying to balance faith with life, as if the two were separate. But there is no line between holy and ordinary when Christ dwells in you. The dishes you wash, the deadlines you meet, the tears you wipe, the burdens you carry, all of it can become worship when love is your motive. The Spirit does not wait for the stage or the spotlight. He moves quietly through your hands as you serve, through your voice as you comfort, through your heart as you forgive. The more you walk with him, the more sacred everything becomes. You begin to understand that holiness is not a posture you hold, but a presence you host. When your mind slows enough to notice his nearness, even the chaos feels different. You stop praying for God to fix everything and start asking him to fill everything with his peace, his perspective, his patience. That's when transformation deepens into consecration. Because now it's not just your circumstances changing, it's your center. You stop chasing moments that feel spiritual and start realizing that every breath is spiritual if it's surrendered. It takes courage to live this way, to release your own rhythm and let God conduct the song. The world tells you to chase visibility, but heaven whispers, be available. The world says, make your mark. God says, let me leave mine through you. True glory doesn't come from standing out, it comes from being poured out. And the only crown worth wearing is the one you laid down at his feet. There will be days when this surrender feels invisible, when obedience feels like silence. You'll wonder if your faith makes a difference. But heaven sees what earth forgets. Every time you choose mercy over pride, you're reflecting his heart. Every time you carry someone's pain in prayer instead of gossip, you're revealing his compassion. Every time you do what's right when no one notices, you're building an altar the world can't see, but God calls beautiful. Consecration isn't the absence of struggle, it's the presence of devotion in the midst of it. It's choosing to love when it would be easier to walk away, to pray when it would be easier to worry, to trust when it would be easier to quit. It's the steady rhythm of saying, not my will, but yours, even when you don't understand. And in those whispered yeses, heaven expands within you. When you start to see through eternity's eyes, even the smallest act of faith becomes infinite. You find joy not in outcomes, but in obedience. You begin to notice that everything you surrender returns to you transformed. What you give up for his sake never disappears. It comes back refined, radiant, free from the weight of self. To live for his glory is to live light, unburdened by needing to be noticed. Maybe that's what Jesus meant when he said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." It's not because the road is simple, but because love carries the load. When you walk in step with Him, you no longer drag your life behind you. You let His grace pull you forward. Each trial becomes a thread of worship, each scar a window of mercy. The longer you walk, the more you realize your story isn't about what you've done for God, it's about what He's done through you. So tonight, or in whatever hour you find yourself here, let this be your prayer, that your life would no longer be divided between sacred and secular, between worship and work, but that every heartbeat would echo one truth, that you exist to glorify Him. Let that truth sink so deeply that even in your rest, your soul still sings. And when the world looks at you, may they not see perfection, but peace. May they sense not performance, but presence. May your life be the quiet mirror that makes them wonder about the light behind it. That is the glory of God reflected, not in gold or grandeur, but in a surrendered heart that keeps saying yes. Father, make my heart your dwelling place. Let my words be gentle enough to carry grace and strong enough to speak truth. May my life be the echo of your love in a world that has forgotten how to listen. I am yours, Lord, fully, freely, forever. Amen. If this prayer touched your spirit, whisper Amen in the comments and stay with us at 10 Men with God, a quiet home for hearts that seek Him. Share this prayer with someone who needs light today and subscribe so